Hi everyone, it's Tara here. Welcome to part one of my deconstructed painting of a cat. By deconstructed, I mean that I've broken down the elements of the painting and have filmed each part as a separate real-time video. I'm showing you a series of brushes I selected for this project, but I ended up using the Canson round synthetic brush number 2 for this entire video, which isn't this one that I'm holding up right now. It was the second one I showed. I'm using Derwent Inktense Blocks for this project. I've got the set of 24, so even that amount of blocks is enough to mix pretty much any color you want. The paper I chose for this was the Reeves 300 GSM watercolor paper. I chose the medium. It seems to have two different textures. One side is smooth and the other side's a bit rougher. I find that great it just means you can choose the texture you want. So I've broken this project into a 3-part series. So this video is the eyes and fur. The second part will be the nose, whiskers and fur. And the third video will be the time lapse of the entire project. So I've just chosen a mid-range color, the eye color, just to start blocking in some shapes. Remember, with the blocks you can layer as many times as you want. Just make sure you dry in between. You can use a hairdryer for this. So I am working from a reference photo. I usually get my photos from wildlifereferencephotos.com. They do a great deal where you can choose any 5 photos for $10, and they are royalty free, so you can do whatever you want with them. In fact, you could even download the same photo that I'm using if you wanted to paint along. So I'm just starting to add in a few of my darker shadowed areas. When you're using the blocks like watercolor paint, it's just a matter of practice. The opacity that you want with the paint, you can really achieve a deep color with not much water, or a thinned out look, obviously, with much more water. So really, it really gives you a broad range of colors just by the amount of water you use. So as you can see here, the paint's getting lighter as I'm going along, just as my brush is drying out a bit. So I have been doing a lot of time-lapse videos, and it turns out, it seems to me that you guys prefer the real-time videos. I've had a few comments on my videos saying that you guys want to learn and you'd rather watch my technique in real time rather than the time-lapse. So I'm hoping this video is okay. It's an hour long just for an eye, so, and some fur. So yeah, it's kind of hard to show you guys an entire painting because sometimes the paintings I do take, 22 hours. So I obviously can't do a real-time video for that long, but I'm hoping just a few videos like this will help you learn a technique. So I have recently done a video on how to do fur with colored pencil. I pretty much use the same technique with the blocks you'll see in this video. The blocks is actually quite similar to colored pencil in regards to leaving your white show through for your highlights. Whereas if you're using like acrylic paint, you don't have to worry about it because you can go over it at the end with white paint for your highlights. Colored pencil is probably the hardest. You've really got to concentrate on your super white areas, leaving them white. And with the Inktense blocks, it's not as bad because you do have a white block to work with. And as you might have noticed in some of my other videos, I use that quite a bit, especially at the end for highlights. You can't get anything back to solid white using the white blocks, but you can achieve quite a glow with it. The one tricky bit with the white is you can't really see how opaque it's going to be until it dries. So you might be putting it on going, oh, it's not working. It's not bright at all. But 5 minutes later you look and you've got this massive white patch. So just be careful. Do it gradually and dry in between, just to make sure you don't get like too much white happening. Sorry for all the clicking and stuff. That's me trying to record my voice on my phone and it keeps shutting off. So as you can see, I'm doing layers of colors. Not specifically going light to dark, dark to light, anything. I'm just looking at my reference photo, mixing colors in my block tray. Actually, I might even do a video if you guys need to see how I actually use. I should have had the blocks next to me so you could see how I actually mix the colors and how I add water, more or less water for certain parts of the painting. So I might do that in the future for other videos. So just looking up at my reference photo, trying to match the colors. I've got my reference photo on my computer for this project. I'd prefer to do it that way because I can zoom right in. I can even use a dropper tool on my painting programs on the computer to, if I really want to see exactly what a color is in a section, I can click on that with the dropper tool and it'll show me exactly what that color is. I actually don't do that very often at all, but if you're really struggling to work out a color, that's a handy hint. Now for this eye, I started with the colors and I've put the black in at the end, and you'll probably notice for the other eye I do it completely the other way around. Everyone does things different. Some people go light to dark, some people go dark to light. I've obviously gone both ways with with this one, but it really doesn't matter. I usually just focus in. Okay, most of the time I probably do the black first. It's just kind of a good starting point, like putting your pupil in, but I don't know why I didn't do it this time. Just got straight into the colors. So as you can see, this is really starting to build up, just layers and layers of lines. I'm paying attention to where my light spots are and trying to just leave those areas lighter. Just adding a few darker details. You'll notice here I lay the shape in and I quickly go back and clean my brush. Get some of the, I pat it off on paper towel and I come back and I'm just smudging out the edges. This is just so it's not such a solid line. So definitely always have paper towel on hand, because you can't function if you don't have it, because your brush will just be too wet. Same with details. If you're trying to do fine details and your brush is too wet, it's just gonna leave just globby paint everywhere. So you'll find if you just load your brush up with the paint, pat it off a little bit on paper towel, and then do your fine details, it works a lot better. I find sometimes when I rinse my brush and then load my brush up with color, sometimes I even pat it off on the paper and I'm painting, and I will have a droplet of water that was higher up on the brush run down over my brush bristles and just basically wreck my picture, because it drops a droplet of water, which just makes everything smudge. So be careful of that too. I always check my brush now, just make sure there's no water droplets up higher from washing. So feel free to leave comments on my videos. I really appreciate your feedback and I really appreciate your support. I'm really happy you guys are enjoying the videos. Tell me what you want to see too. Like, I'm always looking for ideas for videos, so if there's something you want to see or learn, tell me, I'll give it a try. So I'm just starting to add in my black. kind of hard to explain what I'm doing. At least you can watch it rather than the time lapse. I think I start getting some pretty ugly layers in this soon, and you'll see it towards the end when I add the white highlights and that it comes back. Don't be scared. You can fix anything with paint. And remember what I said about the more colors you add, the more depth you're going to achieve. If you don't use enough color variation, you're just not going to achieve a realistic look. Concentrate on your color values as well. If you don't get your colors deep enough, the values correct, you just don't get the realistic feeling. If the contrast isn't right, it just won't look realistic. This actually does look quite funny right now without the pupil being done, but we'll get to that soon. I'll be putting a video up in a week or so. I want to do a subscriber showcase on my channel, and I'll put a video out with the details, but pretty much want to see your art. If you guys have paintings or drawings that you're proud of and you want to display them, I'll have some details for you to send them to me, and I want to do a subscriber showcase. So I'm not sure how often I'll do this, maybe twice a year, maybe more. But I am about to go away on holidays for 2 weeks, so I thought that would be good timing for you guys to send your art in, and we can have a subscriber showcase once I get back. I love seeing other people's art. It's so inspiring. Everyone does everything differently. There's no rights or wrongs. I just love seeing everybody's different techniques and styles. I thought if we could show that, it's for everyone to see. It's great. It's great for inspiring other people. That looks a bit better with a pupil. So I'm doing the outside edges of the eye now, and I'm carefully trying to leave some white highlights. So when I draw my image onto my paper initially, the main things I'm concentrating on are, firstly, don't go overboard, don't do too much detail because you're painting over it anyways. So basically you need your outlines of your eyes and noses, just those details. Usually I'll do an outline of my animal or whatever, but in this case there really is no edge of this cat. Even where the head goes down into the neck, there's no real edge for me to draw there, so I really have just sort of drawn on some fur marks just to indicate the direction of the fur. So that helps me see where there's a change of direction in the fur, and I can work out, you know, that's the edge of the head turning into the neck, that kind of thing. So yeah, you'll notice I've just sort of did my eyes and just indications of which direction the fur is going. I did do a video of 3 techniques to transfer your reference photo to your paper for those interested. I suppose I could put the link to that video up here, so I'll attach that after I upload the video. If you don't see it straight away, it's probably because it's only uploaded and I haven't got a chance to put the card on yet. So yeah, here I'm concentrating on leaving little white areas for highlights. You can get a much crisper edge if you leave the white showing rather than try and lighten it up with the white block after you paint it. The thing about that I love about the Inktense blocks is once you're done painting, they dry permanent, so even if I came back later and I decided I want to make this eye more blue, all that stuff I've painted is now permanent now that it's dry, so I could glaze over that with more blue and it wouldn't affect the layers that I've already painted. I would still be careful with it though, like if you just smeared right over all the black and stuff as well, you could smudge it if it hasn't cured properly, which I have done that a couple of times. And the Inktense pencils, they're not permanent until you wet them. So if you went in on this eye and did some details with pencil and then left it and then decided to do a glaze over the top later, and yeah, you'd end up with big smudges because yeah, the pencils aren't permanent until they've been wet. So I'm going to start working out into the fur now. So you just have to pay attention to your line length. And obviously line direction. I don't know why my camera's shaking so badly. I try not to make my fur strokes straight. I get them in the general direction, but I always do little curves on them. Just looks a bit more natural. So I've just got some basic fur shapes in with the black, and now I've gone and got brown. Just like anything else with the fur, you need lots of colors to make it look real. And I like to leave my lighter colors show through, as in the white paper show through in sections for highlights with fur. I don't know if you guys can hear my kids playing outside. If you're wondering what all that is. So I'm just working outwards from the eye with the fur. Just got a brown color just to start with. As you can see, as I work with it, it gets lighter and lighter, and that's sometimes an advantage. Usually when I reload my brush, I will go to a darker area for the first couple of strokes, or else sometimes you end up with a big really dark bit where you don't want it that dark. And sometimes I do like just then and don't load it up enough, so it's just tricky. You just have to work out your technique. So I'm just looking at my reference photo, trying to get the fur going in the right direction and the right length. I know I've already said that, but so I'm still just using the same brown color. As you can see, I've made it darker and lighter depending on how much water I've used. So I've gone for the thicker paint where I want it darker, and more water, sorry, where I want it lighter. Just to get my first color down. I didn't expect to use this same brush for this whole video, but I have. It's just really good brush. I mean, it's not even an expensive brush. It's just a good all-around brush. If you use it lightly, you can get super fine detail. If you press harder, you can get the better width. So still using the same brown, you can see the difference, what I was talking about before, depending on how much water you use. So I've got a whole range of contrast of hair with just the one color to start with. And now I've got my second color, which is a... What color is this? I think I'm using... Must be willow? No, baked earth. It's referring to my Inktense chart. So the darker color I was using before would have been bark. So I'm doing the exact same thing I did with the darker color. Just leaving white areas show through. So it's starting to take shape now. You can see those white areas that are left look like little highlights. So this video of this eye goes for pretty much an hour. So the second eye I've done as a time lapse because it's exactly the same technique. So I didn't want to bore you for too long. I think my family's making fun of me. Sitting in here talking to myself. Here I'm starting to make the fur a bit longer as I'm getting away from the eye. So it's a lighter area on the cat, so I'm actually using that middle brown as my first color, leaving a bit more white showing through. So that was the same color I just applied, it was just less water. So you can see the variation you can get. So I end up coming in with grays and blacks. I've added the darker brown in here for a patch over its eye, just to get that color variation that you need to get the depth. don't be afraid to mix your colors. I just stopped the video to see how much longer we had till we got to the time lapse of the other eye, and yeah, we've only got 20 minutes to go. Another 20 minutes of this. Really don't know what else to say. I think I've said it all. I'm just extending out now with the same technique with the darker color first. Sometimes with the fur, with the Inktense, I do like to come back at the end with the Inktense pencils and actually draw some highlights or shadows in, add some extra color, but not actually go over it with the water as a final result, which actually it looks alright as long as you don't touch it with water after that, because then you end up with really bright splotches. Sometimes that happens with the pencils. They're a lot brighter when you add water than when you just color with them. I mean, obviously for fur you want the lines anyway, so you're not gonna add water to it. So So I keep going over the same areas just with different tones of usually the same color, just to get a bit of the direction. Like, how do I explain that? Like change the direction slightly, just so every piece of fur isn't going exactly the same direction. Bit of variation, it helps a lot. It makes it look a bit more layered too. It's pretty neat to watch how all these little lines just start to look like proper fur. I must have decided I needed some extra highlights in the eye, so I've gone and got some white. You'll notice as it dries it gets brighter and brighter. I love that glow from the Inktense white. It's still getting lighter. Like I said, you can go overboard because you think it didn't go on. And then as it dries, it gets really bright and you're like, oh, like I'm actually looking at this now going, oh, whoops. But of course you can glaze over it too, so. It is good to jump around a bit on your projects. I always end up going back to areas afterwards. It's just sometimes when you look at the same bit for so long, you start to not see what needs to be done to it. So going back later and with fresh eyes and looking again, you can usually work out what you were missing before. I actually tend to leave or a project I finish, I'll look at it a week later. Sometimes I even put it away and get it out a week later just so I'm not staring at it the whole time. Look at it again with fresh eyes and yeah, realize what I could change, and it's actually quite helpful to do that. Especially those long projects like over 20 hours, you start to not see not see what you need to change, and I don't know, obvious things. Sometimes I'll go back a week later and go, oh my god, that needs to be way darker or way lighter. Yeah, so you sometimes just need to have a break, not look at it for a while. So even just going and working on a different section is helpful, then come back. Like obviously I've done with this eye. I actually thought the eye was finished earlier, but I guess I must have looked down and went, oh, I'll change this. You've done well if you've watched, 46 minutes of this video? You must be keen to learn if you're still watching this. Sometimes I find I go over my black areas several times when using the Inktense. Don't know. Sometimes it just, as it dries, it's not quite as dark as you thought it was. So I end up going back over with less water. I must be done that eye by now. Come on. Didn't realize I mess around so much. So once I get part 2 of this series made, which is the nose, whiskers and fur part, I will put a card at the end of this video so you can have a link directly to that video. Obviously, if it's not there yet, it's because I haven't finished it yet. So hopefully everyone is happy with the videos now. I'm hoping to cover everything, a time lapse for the people who don't want to learn but they like to see a painting process, and then yeah, the real-time videos for you guys who want to actually sit and paint along even. I really wish I would stop painting this eye. It's really hard to record audio and watch myself painting this. I keep going, okay, stop already. It's enough. Leave it. And the kids are fighting in the background. So thank you to all my subscribers. I really appreciate your support. I can't believe you guys are happy with my videos. Yeah, it's very inspiring for me. I actually thought I was going back to the fur for a second there. As you can see, that I'm making the second eye a time lapse for a reason. This is quite a long video, so please let me know what you think. If it's way too long and grueling, yeah, just let me know. Or is this what you guys want? Some people have said they really want to see the process in real time, so it just can just get a bit boring, that's all. Especially when I keep going over and over and over the same bit. Yes, I'm finally leaving the eye alone. Back to fur. Nope, back to the eye. Going over that black again. Always just dries a bit lighter than when it's wet. So I can't wait to show you in the next part of this series, the nose, whiskers and fur, how to use the masking fluid to do the whiskers. And I don't know, what else will we be doing? Just the fur around the mouth and the nose. I've actually had someone request how to do whiskers, so that'll be good for that one. If you saw then, I added some blue to a highlight and I put too much on and I just quickly dabbed it off with my finger. Back to the eye, a few more highlights. Okay, well, we'll be moving on to the time lapse soon, so I just want to say if you've made it through this video, thank you. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you in the next video, part 2. Good luck with your paintings.